Hello and welcome to this edition of the SFG Top Performance Feed and Grain Podcast. With me today is our normal panel of Scott Gates and Kent Watson from the feed division, both of them. So we'll talk about grain real quick and then I'll turn it over to them and they'll have some new information on feed programs. The market focus seems to be on harvest activity now. We're still at the early stages in the Midwest of harvest. There's a few in our area, including our company, that are harvesting. So far, the results have been promising, and on the bean side, maybe even a little better than we expected for the early beans. So, in the case of South Central Iowa, it appears we've got a crop this year, and that's great. Midwest weather in general has been harvest friendly. A lot of dry, warm days. Corn is drying almost rapidly in the fields some days as we get up into the 90s with some breeze blowing. So that'll lessen the need for artificial drying, which is always good. The Gulf is opening back up after Hurricane Ida went through and did a lot of damage. Some of the terminals started loading grain earlier this week again. We'll start getting the backlog of barges out of the river. That'll be good. This not only affected the grain trade, but also fertilizer and other products coming north. And if any of you that have checked current fertilizer prices, they're already on the high side, and things like this will tend to make it higher yet. So hopefully they can get the river open back up completely, and we'll get normal transportation going. The funds are still long, both corn and beans on the board, particularly corn. There are over 200,000 contracts to the long. They are in a position they either have to continue to defend that position, and that means holding the market, or we'll start to see some liquidation. And there's been a few days that happened, and that's them days that you see a 10-cent drop, and we've got companies kind of bailing out as they don't want to become underwater, so to speak. But hopefully we'll get more yield information coming in the next 2-3 weeks. Already the Eastern Corn Belt, the disease pressure on the corn has maybe taken a toll on some yields, affecting them as much as 20 to 40 bushel in some places. That led to some analysts this week predicting national average for corn back down in the 170 range. And that would be very dramatic if that was to happen. And I'm sure not in the camp that says it will happen. But if we was to take 2 or 3 bushel back off the corn yield, that would keep us probably above $5 for sure on the board, maybe even in the 550, 560 range. So that would all be good. Bean side's kind of similar. They're long, not near as bad, and so we've got November trading in the upper 12s, 1280, 1290 range. 13 seems to be the point of resistance. We bounce back up there and we can't get ourselves through it. But as harvest goes on, we'll see how the yields come in, and that will affect it. Oats are trading at record levels, and the U.S. oat crop was off about 44% compared to last year. A lot of oats are raised in the northern plains, and that, of course, is where the drought was the worst. The old saying, the oat knows, typically holds true that corn will follow. It'll be interesting to see if we're able to maintain that this time. And after 2 years of virtually no carry in the markets in the fall time frame, we're starting to see carry, particularly in the beans as we go into the winter months. And a guy can pick up 25, maybe even 30 cents with those beans in the December, January time frame. We haven't been able to do that for at least 2 years, maybe 3. And so that could lead to some beans going into storage instead of being sold off the combine. I think we'll still see a large amount of sales at harvest. Prices are still relatively good. Farmers will want some money to get their inputs locked in before they get any higher as we cross over into the new year. So at this point, we're looking forward to a good harvest. Our facilities, with the exception of Milo, we're up, ready to go, take grain everywhere. Milo, we can still take grain. We're feverishly working to complete a couple of projects that we've had tremendous delays in getting the equipment delivered. We actually went and got some of it ourselves, and we've got some of our people working with the millwrights right now to complete the projects up there. So Scott may have a little more information on that, but we will be able to dump grain and take care of people at all times. So with that, I'll turn it over to Scott. He'll give you some feed updates and maybe a little more on the Milo elevator. Scott?
Yep, Mark, I think harvest is here. We tested some corn at 18% earlier this week, so it's not going to be long now. And as Mark said, the new drag for the wood elevator finally showed up. They're working very hard to get it installed. Unfortunately, it's going to take time, but I think if they keep moving on it and the weather cooperates just a little bit and harvest cooperates, we should be ready to go whenever the large numbers start hitting us. So keep our fingers crossed and we'll hope for the best. So I've been driving around the country a little bit the last couple of weeks calling on some customers, and I've noticed a large number of pastures with ragweed issues. Not sure why that is this year, but it seems worse than normal. Now is the time to be spraying pastures, so you can clean up all that ragweed and all the other weeds that have gotten started here in the late summer. We've got a few rains and the weather's cooled off, and there's some weeds that started sprouting up around, so it's a good time to clean them up. Also thistles, it's an excellent time to control thistles. They're best sprayed in the fall when they're in the rosette stage. Fall is also a good time to give your hay fields a little shot of fertilizer. This will allow you some time for regrowth in both the pastures and the hay fields, and this way they can all go to bed for the winter healthy. They can wake up next spring ready to start growing. Fall is also a good time to get out in your cows and take a good look around. Make a good assessment of their health and condition. You can make management decisions at this time, like this should be her last calf, or I should wean my calves now, or maybe I've got enough grass. Cows are in good shape. If I put some creep feed out there, I can leave everything out in the pasture for a while. This is just a good time to catch potential problems before the stress of winter starts. You can use the fall to your advantage. It's a lot cheaper to try to put a little condition back on your cows now than to try to feed it on them in the wintertime. Now is also a good time to run them through the chute and deworm and delouse and update their vaccinations. Keep in mind the growing number of parasites are getting resistance to our normal wormers. Safeguard wormer is a one-time feed-through wormer. You use it with the paste wormer and you'll be amazed with the results you'll get. You can contact Kent or myself about Safeguard or any other fall feed needs. We will be more than happy to help you, and see your local SFG agronomist about spray and fertilizer. They can make best recommendations for you going into the winter. Also, don't forget to book your mineral needs for the winter. We still have our 10% off Kent Mineral through October. And that's all I got for you today. Kent?
Thanks, Scott. I just sort of, this is that time of year. Probably most of the hay now has been pretty much put up. Silage has been chopped and stacked as well. And I want to sort of talk about a very vital tool that's available to livestock producers, and it's probably the most underutilized tool by livestock producers, and that's forage testing. To achieve our greatest return on investment, we spend a lot of money on these animals, breeding wise, giving them shots and things to maximize their genetic potential, and as livestock producers, forages are our number one, is the backbone for all of our feed programs, and yet we're basically, when we make our decisions of what we're going to feed or how we're going to supplement them, we're basically guessing on just how much nutrients are in these forages. When you try to we might be underfeeding them. Not only are we losing potential pounds, but more importantly, that cow might be losing some body condition and going into next year's calf crop that could suffer as well. And conversely, if we're overfeeding them, we're basically just wasting very expensive nutrients, and which could go to your bottom line. But the only real way of matching your forages to animal groups and understanding their need for supplementation, it can only be achieved if we know what what our forage's nutrient value is, and so that's how we can make sound management decisions. So the best time to be doing forage tests on hay is as soon as after you're baling up as possible. That way you can sort of group your hay accordingly to when you want to feed it and to what animal group. For instance, you want to keep your best hay back for the last trimester of gestation, and then right after at calves at peak lactation times. So versus like your silages, you want to be testing that as close to feeding time as possible. It allows that silage to go through its complete insulining process, and that way you get a truer knowing of what the nutrient value of that silage is. And also it allows, if there's any mycotoxin issues, for those mycotoxins to show up as well. So basically, the bottom line is, you're investing in a forage sample that is very low cost, but it's the best way to make an educated decision to not only improve the animal's health, but also the economic health of your producers. So do you have forage probe over there at Milo?
No, do not.
I do have a forage probe there at Albia. Lots of people will come in and ask for it. They can use it. Just bring their sample back, and I'll get it sent in, and we usually have the results within 3 or 4 days. But it's a very important, vital tool that's available to these livestock producers, and we need to take advantage of it. So that's all I got.
Well, thanks, guys. Good updates on feed. Real quick on the fall harvest schedule at our locations. All locations will be running extra hours as we get busier. Feel free to check with your local SFG location and get an update. And as long as you communicate with them, they'll do the best they can to give you the service you need to get you back in the field as quick as you can. That's always our goal here, is to get those trucks emptied out and get them back to you so you can keep rolling, keep those combines going down the rows. Also want to remind you that you can go to sfgiowa.com, our website, and get daily updates on our bid prices, and our grain policies are located off of that document also. We did not change any charges this year. The storage and drying charges will be the same as last year. Any questions on all that stuff, you can feel free to call the Knoxville office and ask for me, and I'll help you out. Well, this wraps up this edition of SFG Top Performance. We want to thank you for tuning in.